Hey everybody, welcome back to DDJ's Inferno, the weekly show where we talk about issues relevant to men going their own way. And this week we have the founder of Bitchute, Ray Vahey. I hope I didn't destroy your last name, Ray. Welcome to the show, and go ahead and introduce yourself, assuming that you're still there.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, you got it right. So, yeah, about as good as everyone else gets it.
There
So,
you go.
yeah, I'm the founder of Bitchute, which is a peer-to-peer video sharing service, one that supports freedom of expression and is doing quite well lately. It's coming up. So, I'm here today to talk to you a bit about that and anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, that sounds great. I also wanted to appreciate the time you taking the time out to spend time to chat today, because I know that being halfway around the world, time zones can be a challenge. So I appreciate you making the time to be here today.
No trouble at all. I'm quite used to it. I'm always doing calls really late or really early, so it's just how it is for me.
Sounds good. So talk to me a little bit about BitChute. I mean, tell me where the idea came from to get started, and why you created the platform.
Right. So I've been a follower of alternative media for many years. I gave up watching the mainstream a long time ago, except for just to keep an eye on what they're doing. And I noticed a couple of years ago that things were shifting, that we were seeing people in the alternative media space getting demonetized, that they weren't getting the views that they used to get. And a lot of these people were my friends, so they were complaining about it. And I just thought, there's something I can do here as someone who's worked in IT all his life. I just thought, what can I do? And I knew that we wouldn't be able to build an exact replica of YouTube because of all the costs that were involved. And it's just a huge expense. Video is expensive anyway, but to do it the way YouTube have done it is incredibly expensive. So I came up with the idea to do it as a peer-to-peer service. And what that means, rather than having massive data centers where everyone's connecting into a centralized point, we're using a protocol called BitTorrent, which allows a connection directly from one person's computer to another person's computer. And through this mesh of connections, you get a massive bandwidth saving. In fact, if you look at BitTorrent in the world, in North America, it still accounts for 5% of all internet traffic today. So, and this is done without data centers, without massive amounts of staff. And the idea was just to bring that together with a modern website, with the usability that looks like YouTube, feels like YouTube, but has this optimization on the back end that can really make it grow. And it has done ever since.
Nice. So, like, how long did it take from the time that you came up with the idea to the time to go live?
Because initially it was a garage project. We were just working on it, in spare time, spare days. It wasn't full time to begin, and there was no funding, so it's really tough. It was done over probably a 6-month period.
Okay.
But just taking time whenever we could get the time to do some work on it.
Nice. So now, when you say it's a free speech platform, talk about that a little bit, and kind of what do you mean by that, and what are your philosophies behind that?
Right. So that the internet has been, a magnificent influence on the world. I mean, before the internet, we used to, we had so few options for news sources, for entertainment, and since we've had alternative, we've found out so much that's going on that we're able to keep our governments accountable. They can't get away with the things that they used to get away with. You just have to look at the Iraq War and weapons of mass destruction as one good example. If that happened today, it would be torn apart in the alternative in days and weeks. So it's been a massive influence on my life, and and, I think a massive influence on the world for good. And I've seen that it's changing all around the world, especially in Europe, in America as well. People are moving away from this long-held belief that the right way to do things is with freedom of expression, and that's wrong, because what happens then is you once you lose this freedom, people aren't able to resolve their differences, to resolve problems through communicating, through debate. So it's going to lead towards all sorts of greater problems, and that's where I come from. Why I've the main reason I got into this, that I think that we need platforms that are, whatever comes, going to support freedom of expression, and that's where the idea came from.
Nice. Now, when you got started with Bitchute, and once Bitchute got live, I noticed that you had some problems, or at least some challenges and obstacles with monetization and some other things. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I thought you had didn't you have a payment service, and then there were some challenges there. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. So up until recently, we were using a payment system, and
I apologize. Your mic is cutting off at the end. Yeah, just a little bit. It's usually the end of what you're saying, so I apologize. Is there a way you can turn up the gain, or if you've got a noise gate, maybe turn that down?
How's that? Any better?
Yes, it is. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So we were using a payment gateway called Stripe, and what that does, when you have small companies starting out, it's really difficult to go directly to Visa and MasterCard. So there's this another layer of companies like Stripe that handle the connectivity to Visa, and we were using them. We didn't have any problems. We hadn't had any significant. Well, in fact, we hadn't had any problems with customers. We'd had 0 chargebacks, no complaints, and out of the blue, Stripe just said that they were terminated. And we do believe it's political. That the excuse they gave was that we're a high risk of chargeback company, in light of us never having a chargeback, and having explained our business model when we signed up to them. I think that's a bit of a outrageous thing for them to do after we'd already done the development. It's not quick to integrate these things. It takes months of work to integrate them, to test them, to get people on beta testing. It's a really big deal.
Is there a way? I mean, I'm not advocating being litigious, but is there a way that you can hold them legally accountable for violating your guys' agreement?
I'm not sure. It is something that we're sort of looking into on the side. I think possibly not, because we agree to their terms, and their terms do say that they can terminate you. So, it's a really low move on their part. It would have been so much better if they just said to us in the beginning, we don't want your company with us. But because they welcomed us, and we went through all of the paperwork and everything, and then they kicked us off after all of that, it was a huge expense and a large setback. But it's made us rethink how we're doing things, and we've come up with a new model now, which I think is more robust and is going to be even better.
Okay. Now, I do know that from our conversations that you had talked about alternate models. Have you had any movement on there, or any positive movement to have an idea of like how you want to do the monetization?
Right. So the monetization that we've brought back already is a pledge-based system, a lot like Patreon, where someone can either give you a tip or they can give you a recurring monthly payment. What we're doing with that, actually, we're trying to make it more peer-to-peer, not completely peer-to-peer, because we have to go through payment gateways still.
Sure.
But the first payment gateway we brought in is PayPal, and that's the most requested. Everyone uses PayPal. So what we're actually doing is allowing people to insert their own PayPal. So the PayPal transaction is facilitated through the site, but it goes directly from the person watching the video to the person who made the video, and we're not a part of that. So that's really great for the video creator, because they've got the guarantee of having these recurring payments that are set up through PayPal. They don't have to worry about anything that happens on the Bitchute side. I mean, we couldn't stop them if we want to once we set them up. Also, you as a creator, you get 100% of the transaction minus any PayPal fees. We don't take a penny from that.
Right.
And the way we make money instead is by having a supporter level service. So we've got 3 tiers. We've got a bronze, a silver, and a gold. And if you see value in Bitchute, if you think that the world needs a freedom of expression that's allowing supporting creators and allowing them to upload their content, then you can sign up as a creator as a supporter from as little as $5 a month. And we've got all sorts of rewards on that. We've got an enhanced account, like additional playlists. On the higher support tiers, we've got like a mug club, so you can get a mug every 6 months when the mug goes out. And we've also got t-shirts that go out, and other account enhancements that we're working on.
Nice. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I noticed, actually one of my subscribers told me that apparently, I remember when you talked a little bit about this previously. I think it was in the TFM interview, or if it was in one of our conversations. I don't remember exactly when, but it was interesting because after you had talked about that the first time, YouTube actually rolled out to something very similar, where they now have a subscription system because they're just concerned that the money's going to go elsewhere. So I just thought it was kind of amusing, because you could see that, like, all of a sudden, once you said something about it, now YouTube is like, oh shit, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball here. So I thought that was kind of amusing.
We just saw this the other day. We've had this for quite a while, for more than 6 months, where we've selected the first 3 hashtags, and we've placed those below the video, so that you can have like a Twitter style trending hashtags and hashtags on a video that people can actually visibly see. YouTube have just rolled that out as well. Well, it's amazing, because it looks identical. So we're thinking they can't be copying us, not a little site like Bitchute, but right, nope. It makes you think.
Well, I honestly think they are, because they're losing revenues. I mean, you look at, for example, you look at social media, what I'm going to call legacy social media, or social justice social media. I mean, you've got Twitter purging millions of accounts every week now. You have conservative voices being silenced on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook, of course. And all these types of things, they have a cascading effect. And people don't understand how what kind of impact that cascade effect can have. And just to give you an example of how quickly things move, even before the internet, even before we had any kind of instant communication across the board. I mean, look at the example of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was doing movies in China in the 60s. And, before he died, his movies became worldwide and kickstarted a interest in the martial arts around the world, and changed the way unarmed combat happens completely. And he did this himself. It was just one guy. It was, he was the pebble that hit the water, but the ripple effect turned into a tidal wave that went all the way around the world, changed the martial arts world completely, changed the history. It changed the way that martial artists do everything everywhere. And it is absolutely crazy. And again, this was before the internet. And now today, we have the internet. We have this method of instant communication where we are able to communicate with everybody everywhere. I mean, I'm in the United States, you're in Asia, and we're just sitting having a conversation practically in real time. And we're streaming this conversation over the internet to people all over the world. So your platform is having a huge impact. And while you're still somewhat in your infancy, you represent an alternative to the status quo and to the top-down censorship and control, the dialogue control that certain powers to be want to have. And I think that you're absolutely correct in that if you don't have freedom of speech, you can't exercise your rights. You can't meaningfully have a dialogue. You turn into an echo chamber, and you start to cannibalize yourself, and you cannibalize the people within your organization or your movement. And we see this in feminism already with the hashtag Me Too movement. Like 90% of all the people that have been targeted are male feminists. So they know that the only way that they can do these type of things is if they actually push and cannibalize within their own area, because nobody else is listening to them. So having a free speech engine like Bitchute, I think it's absolutely necessary, because of all the competition that YouTube has. Your platform seems to be the strongest competitor, even if it is not the most well-established or the largest competitor, because nobody controls you guys. And I think that terrifies everybody. What are your thoughts on that?
I do. I think it's the perfect storm at the moment for creating a competitor to YouTube as well, because if you went back a few years ago, their brand was unblemished. They were, if you started a YouTube competitor, people would have laughed at you. But these days, everyone succeed. We're getting so much support. People understand the need, and on top of that, you've got the mainstream media, which is dying a really slow death. You see, if you look in the UK or the US, CNN and BBC, the average viewer is over 60 years old now. It's unbelievable. So the young people just don't know what cable TV is. So the whole fight for the control of minds, the control of allowing people to have freedom on the internet or not, is going to be on video platforms, on social media. It's not going to be on the mainstream media anymore. And yeah, I think there's a lot of control being lost from governments as well, because with the legacy media, if a government wanted to shut something down, they could very simply. It wasn't a problem for them. But with the internet, it's a massive problem. And you're seeing new legislation out of the EU. You're seeing other governments talking about controlling the internet more tightly. All of this is happening right now. So we're at a critical point in time. And we do need alternatives. That, BitChute is one alternative, but people need to start thinking about moving to these alternatives, even if it's not in the entirety, just setting up a presence there, because things can change very quickly, and they can go in a good direction or they can go in a bad direction. And right now, it's really uncertain which way it's going to go. And I think hopefully it's going to go in a good direction, and we're going to maintain freedom of expression throughout the world. But, it's touch and go at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. The other thing that I noticed too, and to kind of dovetail what you were saying, is that I know that, for example, so a lot of people talk about the legacy media as the mainstream media. I am of a different opinion there. I believe that legacy media is no longer the mainstream media. Again, for the very reason that you said just a second ago, that the majority of viewers are over 60 years old. Whereas when you look at alternative media, you look at news websites, you look at news videos, YouTube videos, you look at people's blog sites and, independent news sources, people are flocking to those. They're flocking to them left and right. And anybody under 60 years old who is at least a little bit internet savvy is going to these alternate sources over the mainstream sources, or over the traditionally mainstream sources, the legacy media sources. And in response, what we're seeing is Facebook is shadow banning many of these alternative news sources. If they've identified you as a non-legacy news source, your source gets banned. They go out of their way to prevent these, like if you put up a link in Facebook, they will actually minimize your reach on that link, because that link has been identified by them as dangerous. We've seen YouTube do the same thing. And Twitter is admitted to doing the same thing. So you have the big three. You've got Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, who are all going out of their way to limit the reach of their social media content from news sources they are threatened by. And then what they're doing instead is they're curating news sources that are government approved, that are sanitized, that are hopefully able to control the narrative. And what's interesting about this is that if we go back to, do you remember the Arab Spring in 2010? Ray, did I lose you?
Sorry, it's cutting out a bit there, but I got most of that. Yeah, and so the last thing I heard, you were talking about the Arab Spring.
Right. I was asking if you heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean,
people don't understand with the Arab Spring. That was huge because it was a social media astroturf campaign that toppled a government. I mean, that's massive. I mean, so this tells us that social media is important, and so, you know, free speech platforms are important. But, you know, obviously it's been, what, 8 years since the Arab Spring started, about that. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Arab Spring and as it relates to freedom of speech?
oh, I mean, that's a question I wasn't ready for. I mean, yeah, it is real democracy when you can get on the internet and, you know, express your opinion and be heard by the people who have the power, and you know, and get your opinion put in front of anyone else in the world, and it can live or die on its own merit. I mean, this whole thing has changed direction quite recently as well. You're seeing that the mainstream media are getting support from the big tech in financially. In fact, in just this week gone, we've seen that 25 million of funding has come from YouTube to sponsor legacy media shows. I think Anderson Cooper has got a show. In fact, that one's come from Facebook. Another 90 million of funding has come from Facebook. So that they're really worried, and they're really trying. You can see that it's out in the open that they are trying to put the mainstream, the legacy media, back into the mainstream, and they've definitely fallen down. What we might see is a bit of a bounce back, because you know, for a limited period, because so much money is going into it, it's hard to see how that wouldn't happen. But I think it will be a limited period, and the money will run out, because, you know, you're there with a webcam and you're competing against someone like Anderson Cooper from CNN, who's got probably 20 people in the background supporting him, and the show's costing 20,000 a pop compared to a few hundred a pop, which is
Right.
which is insane when you think about it.
Well, and it's funny too,
yeah,
because like there's even a whole host in the last 2 years. I've seen a whole host of YouTube channels that are set up as like mini news outlets. And, you know, while they try to pretend to be like, oh, I'm just this YouTuber who's by myself, it turns out they've got an entire team behind them as well. And they're just trying to appear to be organic rather than actually being, you know, like an organic YouTuber. But I mean, you're absolutely correct. I mean, doing a commentary video for me is far less expensive to do than it would be for somebody like Anderson Cooper's organization.
yeah, and I mean, what alternative media has shown is that it's able to pull in the numbers. So if you can do a show for that much money compared to what the legacy media would cost, you know, you don't need to have as massive an audience to support yourself, or I mean, a massive audience is nice, but you can get by on a smaller audience. You can get by on less, and this is really going to give legacy media a death of 1,000 cuts, because, right, I mean, any one YouTube creator they could take out, but there's thousands. There's thousands all independently building up their own audiences, and altogether they're now as big as the legacy media. And I don't see how they're going to come back from that.
Right. I agree with that completely. So let me ask you this. What's next on the agenda for Bitchute? I mean, now that Bitchute is up and running, and I'm assuming that you guys are seeing reasonable growth. Have you thought about live streaming or other things that you can incorporate into your platform? Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so one thing we're working on at the moment, we're really looking hard into monetization because, I mean, that's important for you guys and important for us as well. We're actually developing a separate standalone project called Bitchute, which is going to be like a complete Patreon alternative. And it's going to have more besides. It's going to have a marketplace as well. That's going to be released in phases. The first phase is coming fairly soon, and it's going to be the Patreon side of that. We are also looking at live streaming. I think that's going to come later in the year because it's still quite a large expense, and we want to get all the monetization stuff in place before we bring that in. So it's paying for itself. Mobile apps also very important towards the end of the year as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When we're looking at monetization, we're being quite creative as well. We are doing adverts, the old style monetization. We don't want to rule anything out. If people want them on their channel, then that's fine. So we're working with advertisers to get those in place, but also looking at other newer ways that haven't been thought of before, like a marketplace where people can use it as a gig economy. And I think that's going to be really exciting when it comes out because no one's seen that before. So, it'll be another first.
Right.
And we've also got a cryptocurrency in the works, which is, that's going to be quite a novel approach to it as well, because we're doing something that hasn't been seen before on that, which is people will be able to mine to get the currency, but it's sort of people will mine to get a reserve currency, which we would then use to prop up the currency. So having something that's based on inflation, which other sites have done, we wanted to do something that is long-term sustainable. And we think a great idea to do that with a reserve. So like you have might have a reserve for a fiat currency in gold, we're going to have a reserve in various different cryptocurrencies for Oz. So you can all see that those amounts of cryptocurrency are in place and they're propping up the currency that everyone gets to use on the site. So I think that's going to be really exciting and new when that comes out.
Yeah, I think that'll be. I think that'll be great, especially if it's a cryptocurrency that's been proven, or a cryptocurrency that is transparent as far as the entire team and everybody else being transparent. Because we've seen a lot of cryptocurrency creators that have been less than transparent, or their currency doesn't have anything backing it up other than their word. And so that ends up being a challenge. I mean, not to mention any specific cryptocurrencies here. But I mean, this is something that I have dug into and done some research on, because I think that you're right. I think that cryptocurrency does have advantages. And I think that getting the right cryptocurrency in place could do a lot of positive things for Bitchute.
Yeah, it's definitely a cowboy space at the moment. And, it's very easy to set up a cryptocurrency, but the difficulty is to come up with an idea to make it long-term sustainable. And that's why it's taken us longer to do this, because we don't want to just put something out there. Like you can go to these websites that will give you an Ethereum cryptocurrency in 10 minutes, literally.
Yeah, that's
you don't want to do that, because, you might get an initial amount of money out of people who believe in the site, but what you're really doing is cheating them. So we've come up with an idea that isn't a scam, is going to be something that is long-term sustainable. And I think it's going to really be revolutionary once we bring it out.
Sure. I think that's great as well. Now, as far as I know that Bitchute has a Twitter account. Are you guys on Minds and Gab as well?
We are we've got a presence on Gab, we've got a presence on Minds. Yeah, we want to build up the presence on Minds because that's still quite small. But yeah, it's good for alternative technology to support each other. I think we need to do more of that. You know, we're really up against the big tech, and they support each other as well. You see them come out with all these ideas in unison. Like I mentioned, the YouTube funding legacy media, and then the day after, Facebook did the same. They're cooperating on certain things behind the scenes. So I think alternative media needs to do more of that as well.
Well, they're cooperating on everything behind the scenes, including employment. I mean, they had stories come out where somebody would leave, let's say Facebook, or they would leave Google, and the other company wouldn't hire them because Google or Facebook didn't want them to get a job elsewhere. In effect, blacklisting these employees from, the big tech opportunities that would normally be coming for them. Even Apple and Google had some gentlemen's agreements to prevent poaching from one group to another. And I know Microsoft was in on that as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes to prevent competition and to, kind of keep people in line. So I agree with you completely. And I think that when it comes to the free speech platforms, whether it be Gab, whether it be Bitchute, whether it be Minds, I think that, allying close together and being able to have those conversations and agreements in place is going to be huge, because you have to use the rules your competition is using in order to get to be able to fairly compete, because you can use your rules as much as you want, and I mean, obviously you want to stay within the four corners of ethics, but if they're dictating that these are the rules of engagement, then there has to be some consideration for that.
Yeah, we are a very ethical company. We don't sell people's data. We don't spy on them like all these companies have been doing for years. And I mean those things would have been disadvantages years ago, but I think people are waking up to the fact that if you're not paying for something, you are actually the product. That free is not free anymore. And we've seen this with the Cambridge Analytica scandal at Facebook, how they've sold everyone's data to anyone who really had any money to pay for it. They didn't care. So these are really unethical companies, and it's about time that they had some serious competition. And I think it's going to be good for everyone. It's going to drive the whole industry towards a more ethical approach. They're not going to be able to get away with these practices anymore once there's alternatives that stand for things that are just decent.
Right. Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that, because I remember, I mean, I've been on the internet a very long time. I got my first internet capable computer back in late 1993, early 1994. And I remember when the internet was in its infancy, when Google wasn't the only search engine that was out there. And I remember that when you signed up for Google, or you signed up for Gmail, or you signed up for an online service, part of the terms of service was that you were required to opt in for them to use your information or for them to use your data. And the service was free regardless, and you weren't required to opt in by default. And if you chose not to opt in, there really wasn't a problem. It was just like, okay, well, these people are okay with this as a trade-off and these people aren't, and you move on with your day. And now, over the course of, 93 to, 25 years, 26 years, something like that, later, where the internet has matured a little bit, we see these companies that are out there, and let's just be real. They're the biggest spyware companies on the internet. They're the biggest spyware organizations on the internet. If you look at Google, you look at, Alphabet now, you look at Facebook, you look at Twitter, they track your movements. They track everything you do. Your telephone, if you talk to your friend and your telephone is in the room and you say, you know what, I'm thinking about going and buying a Mazda vehicle. And, I want to buy the new Mazda 626 or whatever the new model is. What ends up happening is that, within the next 48 hours, when you're surfing the internet and the ads pop up on your website, you're going to see ads for Mazdas. You're going to see ads for vehicles. You're going to see all these targeted advertisements because your phone listened to you. because Facebook and Alphabet and Google and YouTube and Twitter and every other app that you have on your phone is listening and collecting your market data. And that is the essence of spyware. And when they do that, they open you up to all kinds of vulnerability. And like you were talking about, Cambridge Analytica, there are dozens of other companies that are doing the exact same thing. Cambridge is just one of the larger of these groups of individuals doing this. And so you're right. These companies are very, they're very unethical. The companies are very unethical, and they have turned themselves into spyware companies that are making money off of selling your personal data. And the sad part about it is that then they turn around and they have the balls to go after governments and go, oh, well, this government shouldn't have your personal data and your privacy should be protected and this and that. And it's like, no, you guys have violated the privacy of billions of people across the world, yet you turn around and virtue signal as though you're not, when your entire business model relies upon you violating people's privacy, violating, their personal information and selling it for money. I think that when you do that as a company, you lose the moral high ground and you lose any credibility by questioning someone else who does it, because the hypocrisy is completely real.
Absolutely. And like I say, this is now, rather than holding us back, this is getting us traction because people are looking for alternatives. They are becoming aware of this, whereas years ago, people just weren't thinking about it. They were asleep when they were connecting to these services, and they're understanding and they're looking into the future and thinking, well, what's it going to be like for my children? Are they going to go to the doctors and get go to an insurance company and get a higher bill because of what they've posted on? It's possible. There's a chance that if we don't turn this back now, we're looking at a very Orwellian future where everything is known by all these large companies, and they're able to give us insurance prices. They're able to decline our service based on things that really they shouldn't know, that we shouldn't let them know.
Right. I agree completely. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that Bitchute is awesome, and I'm actually really excited to see Bitchute roll out its live streaming service, because with Twitch's live streaming, with YouTube's live streaming, with Facebook's live streaming, none of them have a commitment to freedom of speech, and all of them have demonstrated a great desire to censor conservative voices and to censor any voice that they disagree with, regardless of whether or not what these people are saying stands squarely in verifiable facts and observable reality. So having Bitchute do something like that, I think, is absolutely awesome. So let me ask you this. So the next step for Bitchute is doing the monetization. Do you have a alternative monetization in place, or are you in the process of developing it? I mean, how close are we to alternative monetization, do you believe?
Right. So like I said, we don't want to do the centralized model. We want to use peer-to-peer, more peer-to-peer payment gateways like PayPal. So we'll just facilitate the payments, but we won't actually get involved in the transactions. And by doing that, we make ourselves less of a target. There's no reason to shut us down because we're not taking a cut of the payments. And it's just a better way of doing it. And the reason we can do that is because people are looking at us as the underdog, as the people who support freedom of expression, and they are prepared to give us a subscription. And that's been hugely successful so far. So we're not taking anything out of the monetization cut, but we are asking for something in addition to that. And there's another fund raising, a crowdfunding project that we're doing that I'd like to plug, if you give me a few minutes to plug
Absolutely.
that as well.
Go for it. Yeah, take all the time you need. We've got another 15 minutes of conversation time, no matter what.
at the moment, Bitchute uses Discuss, which is a comments platform. We used that initially because it's a great comments platform for a start, and it was really quick to get off the ground. But it's still one of these Silicon Valley services, and there's always the threat that it could be taken away from not only us but from any of the sites that use it around the world. I mean, sites like Breitbart use Discuss, massive sites use it. Infowars is another one, and it would be. There really aren't that many alternatives. The main competitor to it is Facebook at the moment. So we're planning to build something that's of the quality of Discuss, which is a little bit more decentralized and also completely open source. So any site can take this, they can install it themselves, or they can join our network and use our version of it. It's completely up to them. And we've started an IndieGoGo project for this, and we're hoping to raise some money so that we can fund the development. But so far, it's raised a bit of money, but we're hoping for a lot more. It's still got about a month to run on that. So if you're interested in comments platform,
you're breaking up. You're breaking up a little bit, Ray. I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah, it is breaking up a bit, this conversation, but it's really great. If another alternative tech project comes along, nearly everything needs comments. So, once this is built, they'll be able to just take this project and it will accelerate the development of many more alternative media projects from now until forever, really.
Right.
So it's really important in that regard too, because, a lot of the trouble with open source is that with massive open source projects, like if we combined everything into one, then it's quite difficult if you're making something new to just select the bits you want. So rather than doing that, we've decided to take a step back and do a sort of Lego approach. So that's why we're building Bitchute as a separate system. We're going to build the comments platform as a separate system. Moving forward, we're going to do more and more of that as separate open source systems, that then a new project, maybe a new Twitter or a new whatever, comes along and they just think, right, let's grab that comment system, let's grab that payment system. They're already halfway there.
Right. And I think that's awesome. And honestly, I mean, you doing that kind of platform is huge, because Discuss has already dropped, like Return of Kings, for example, which is V's website. I know that they had a huge issue with them, and they dropped the comments platform for them. I know that I think it was Stripe or somebody else dropped them as well. I forget exactly what payment system dropped them. But it's a huge issue for a lot of platforms out there to be able to share their message. And I agree completely that whether you're putting out blog posts or whether you're putting out YouTube or video content of any kind, you're going to need a chat platform in order to have effective comments and feedback from your audience. I think that's absolutely huge. So what I'd like to do is, if you could put a link into the main chat of my Discord server that we're talking from now, I will put a link to that IndieGoGo into the description of this video when I upload it. And then that way people can contribute to that project. And for anybody out there who's listening to this video, check out the IndieGoGo, check out the project, because this is an important technology. It's an important open source technology that is going to do nothing but enhance free speech. And it's something that I completely support. So with that said, yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you want to tell us about this, or any other shill alerts we need to have?
No, it's been a great chat. Bit of we got interrupted a few times. Normally it's my internet's normally pretty good. I'm not sure what's up with it today.
Oh, but that's okay.
Yeah,
my internet's not great, so it could be on my end. I've had a few technology issues since I've restarted my show, so just blame me, because Rose is our Q&A thought. It's actually because it's Sunday here. It's actually everything is her fault today. So there you go.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on, and speak to you soon.
Well, don't run away yet. We have a Q&A segment that we're going to do now.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
No
No.
problem. Okay, so Lone Wolf and Rose, we have questions from the audience.
Yeah, we have a few questions.
All right, let's hit them.
If you guys, all right, as always, if you guys have questions, remember the parentheses question. Make sure it's not a potato question. Use grammar, all that fun stuff, or it'll get overlooked.
Let me
try to.
Yeah, before you jump on, let me jump in here real quick.
Okay.
Also, for those people on computer desktop or Twitch TV, you'll see Bukkake choke slams float at the upper or lower right-hand side of your screen in green. You can redeem those if you hover your mouse on the lower right-hand side of the screen. You'll see a question mark. You click that question mark, and you can redeem to ask a question via Streamlabs as well. Just remember also, make sure your questions are single part questions so that we have enough room, number one, so that all the characters fit, because there is character limits for the chat and for the questions. And secondly, to give everybody else an opportunity to ask questions. So I apologize for interrupting there, Wolf. Go ahead.
So good. Okay. Yeah. So don't keep asking questions. Like, give other people an opportunity to ask. I see that questions we have are from the same two people. So.
Okay. Well, let me do this too, to give people an opportunity to ask questions. Let me give a shill alert as I continue to interrupt you. I apologize. So let's just kind of do a couple shill alerts real quick. First and foremost, there is a MGTOW group on Minds that I have created for people who want to join it. And just as a reminder, check out Bitchute's IndieGoGo. I'm going to actually copy that link and put it in the chat right now, as you guys hear my mouse clicks. All right, so that link is there in chat for you guys to go check that out and support the IndieGoGo campaign. And then if you have Twitch Prime, feel free to subscribe to my channel via Twitch. It helps me out. It costs you nothing, and it's a good way to support my live streaming. And then, of course, check me out on YouTube. Subscribe to me both on YouTube and on Bitchute. And check me out again at misandrytoday.com. You can also find me at Minds and on Gab. And so with that said, that should have given everybody a little bit of time to ask questions if they wanted to. And I turn it back over to you, Lone Wolf.
Okay.
And
yep, we've only got 4, so let's run through them. Guy named Dance North says, is Bitchute 360p only? Are there plans to add more resolutions?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, the imports from YouTube at the moment are done on 360p. We've also got 480p when you do a direct upload, so you get slightly better quality when you do a direct upload. And we do want to bring in HD as well. That's going to be after we monetization sorted out, because of course there's an extra expense with HD, so we want to make sure that we can fund it. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves too much and then have to backtrack. That's quite important, because at the moment it's amazing. Sometimes we can get, a video uploaded every 10 seconds. And even though that's tiny compared to YouTube, that's still quite a large amount of videos coming in.
Well, that's a huge amount of content. And I know that even when YouTube got started, I mean, they weren't the platform that they are today. A lot of that stuff takes its time. So.
All right. Next question.
Go for it.
Okay. There was a weird silence there. All right. Sticky Fingers Jr. Question for Ray. How does Bitchute plan to support and defend free speech in places where there is no free speech?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, you're probably talking about parts of the Middle East where it's very repressive, where Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's only so much we can do to. I mean, we're not blocking content. People in those countries may have to use VPNs to get at their content anyway, because their governments are so restrictive. And, parts of China as well. They've got the great firewall of China where they block everything. Yeah, I mean, our main focus at the moment is the English-speaking world, but there are we can look at in the future to localize the platform to make it to put it in the languages of people all around the world and to create better accessibility. But our priority for the moment is still the English-speaking world.
Okay. I have a question before we move on, and I think this is one that may or may not have been missed. So if I'm stepping on the Q&A team's nose, I apologize. This question is from Dance Dance North, who is new to the channel today. And he says, quote, I have a silver plan. How do I activate it? Send an email and a DM via Twitter. Have not heard back yet. So is there a two-step process to activate the silver, bronze, and gold plan, or talk about the nuts and bolts of those real quick?
Okay, so if you signed up for the silver plan while you were signed into your account, it should be activated automatically. There's nothing more you should need to do. But if you signed up, there is a bit of an issue at the moment where people can sign up where they're not signed into an account. And we've got some of those where we need to work through and assign them to the correct accounts. And we'll be doing that. There'll be people working on that on Monday morning. So if you haven't heard back yet, you should hear back really soon.
Okay.
We'll be writing an update so that a link goes out to your payment address, so that this won't be a problem within a week or two, because we've got an update to make it so that that's handled as well seamlessly.
Okay. Thank you. Next question.
All right. Real quick, Rose Blades, I'm not taking those potato questions.
Okay.
Forget Cat. Those are dumb. Okay. From
hold on. Let's just talk about that for a second. So Forget Cat, we have this thing on our channel where occasionally, if your question is like really, really stupid, we let everybody know exactly how retarded you are, because we would never want the retarded to be treated with anything less than respect. So we see that you have potato questions. We understand that you're trying to be funny and edgy and everything else. I don't know if there was an issue like with not breastfeeding or what your set of circumstances were. But you should know that on this channel, potatoes do get a little bit of special attention. So congratulations. You're the potato for the day. Now you get no more questions asked. Next question.
All right. And Budo asks, any development for mobile solutions, Ray?
Yes. So we want to get Android and iPhone out, of course. It's going to be towards the end of the year, though, because we just don't have the bandwidth at the moment. We've got so many other things to do first.
Okay. Next question.
Did I answer that right? Because I heard mobile. That's about as much as I got.
Yeah, that's all he was asking, is if you had, if you were going to work on a mobile app or something. All right, the next one. What is this for? DDJ from Sticky Fingers. What happens to all the personal, private, and sensitive information that your wife knows about you after the divorce?
Who cares? I mean, really, who cares? Look, none of that stuff is relevant. I mean, this is somebody that's from my history. Everybody has some sensitive information about somebody else that they knew that they had a falling out with, I should say. So none of that stuff for me is relevant. And for anybody who is somewhat new around here, I've had multiple people attempt to dox me. I've had threats from people. I had some guy make a video telling me that he was going to kick my ass. I've had people threaten lawsuits. I've had death threats and everything else. Let me explain something to you. If you know anything about me or my content, you're going to find out that if and when I get doxxed, people who dig into my history are going to find out what I say is true. So I don't care about that. Do what you want to do. And if and when I get doxxed and somebody decides they're going to come over and try to harass me or fuck with me, the only thing I would say is this: make sure your medical insurance is paid up and make sure you're capable of making the news. Because other than that, it's not a problem for me. Again, the sensitive stuff, the ignorant stuff, whatever, people get doxxed all the time. They get over it and they move on with their day. After the type of stuff that I've been through, if doxing is the worst somebody does, okay. I mean, that's like, for me, that's about as important as, having my fast food order fucked up when I go through drive-through. It's about that important as far as like the information that people think they know about me or the information they do know about me. So it is what it is.
Yeah, once you're doxing someone, you've already lost the argument. I mean,
exactly.
That's something that we do have a rule against as well. We do have rules, and we do say that there's certain levels of harassment that we won't support. And the thing about doxing, though, it's such a low tactic, and once it's done, there's no taking it back, unfortunately. But we do have a rule against doxing. We don't allow it on the site.
Right. Well, the funny part is I actually have a plan to undox myself, but it's kind of interesting, but it's not something I'm going to go into here. But the entertainment value is extremely high. Mm-hmm. Next question.
I'm one of those people who used my real name for my username everywhere since the start of the internet. So I've just been doxed from day one.
Damn it, Ray. No, I'm just joking. All right. Next question.
Okay. I got to skip a few because they could have been answered if they made it to the stream on time. When will Bitchute streaming service roll out? I think you already said that.
Yeah, it's going to be after the monetization. We're looking towards the end of the year, and we are actually looking at ways to bring it forward, because I know TFM is very keen to have it brought forward, because there just really aren't any good options out there. There's lots of options, of course, but just none that support freedom of expression. And if we can bring it forward, we will, but I'm not ready to make an announcement of that sort at the moment.
Well, I can tell you that once you start bringing, assuming you're able to launch that service, that would be a service that I would use as well, because it's my understanding right now, there is no freedom of speech committed live stream platform out there currently. So having that option would make Bitchute definitely a pioneer.
Yeah, you can sort of do it as a peer-to-peer service, but it just doesn't work as well, as you can imagine, because you're watching in real time or close to real time. So you don't get the same sort of bandwidth savings if you run it as a peer-to-peer service. And in fact, it may not even be worth doing the amount of savings that you get doing it that way. So technically, we may have to do it as just a normal streaming service. And then we need to raise the money from the service itself in terms of something like a super chat and similar approaches to actually fund it. So yeah, we need to figure all this out. We need to do the maths, and we need to get it going, and we will, but it's going to take a little while.
Fair enough. Okay, next question.
All right. This wasn't an official question, but I'll ask it anyways because I like it. Mbudo asks, hasn't Bob Lewis suffered enough? He's a mean old man.
So, funny story. So when my book first was released back in May of last year, I created a Twitter account to support the book and to kind of provide myself an online Twitter presence. Well, apparently the automated bot at Amazon decided to attach another author to my book, because the pseudonym that I used, Bob Lewis, apparently it's a very common name. It's almost as common as John Smith. So they attached this tech author to my book, and feminists started harassing him, and it was pretty horrible. They're like, "We know who you are," and this was like the part of the feminists that were attacking me were also part of the anti-white social justice brigade. So they were like, "You're just an old, bald, white rat." And they started making racially disparaging comments because they thought I was Caucasian and the whole thing. So I ended up actually contacting Amazon because I was actually concerned for this guy. I mean, this guy is an author. He's probably written 10 tech books. And, he just looked like he was innocent enough. And he also looked like if he got jumped going out to his car, he probably couldn't defend himself. So I took all the information I had. I contacted Amazon, and I was like, for the love of God, take this man off of my book, because these people are going to hurt him. So Yeah, there's a bunch of Bob Lewises that have suffered, and then one of the other doxing attempts is they thought that I was a part of the old 1980s band called Devo. They thought that apparently there's somebody in their band that his name is Bob Lewis, so they thought that was me. So they actually tried to add my book to his Wikipedia page. The guy's 70 years old. The guy's, brilliant. I mean, go ahead.
So did he even realize why he was getting all this harassment? Did he think it was over one of his technical books?
I don't know. I actually never talked with him personally. I felt horribly about it. And the band member, they tried to add my book to his Wikipedia page, and it ended up being just like this shit show. They're like, we got him. And I was like, no, that's not me either. Sorry.
Wow. How much trouble do you get from feminists?
Actually, it's a combination of the two. I have some radical feminists on the left who hate me, and I have some people from the alt-right who hate me as well. And both groups have attempted to dox me.
Oh boy.
Yeah, making friends.
Like fun.
Yeah, making friends wherever I go.
All right, that's it for these questions. Check Bukkake's.
I got a question here from Artemis the Kitten. If you want to grab it real quick, I'm looking at the redemptions for the Bukkake choke slams, and I am not seeing any currently.
Yeah, Artemis, you can get the answer to that by watching the stream. He just got here like a few minutes ago, so he missed the whole thing, basically.
All right. Well, let's then. With that said, thank you guys for showing up today. Thank you for watching the stream. I do have a question from Batman Bruh. Batman, normally the question syntax here is question in caps and brackets, and then the question. As far as going on the Red Man group is concerned, I would not be opposed to that as long as people understood that I need some lead time to go on other people's streams. I'm willing to talk to almost anybody if they can be civil and reasonable. But if somebody is going to, show up and talk over you and F you this and F you that, and it's going to be kind of like a drama stream, then miss me with that because I got things to do. But if people want to have a conversation and maybe there's some civil disagreement, that's fine. I'm not worried about that at all. But yeah, I mean, if the Red Man group reaches out to me, I would not be opposed to that. I am a little bit concerned about the Red Man group because I know that after TFM went on the Red Man group, there was some butthurt, and he was targeted as a result. And so my preference is not to deal with that level of high school drama because they have consequences, and that's just not where I'm at. I mean, I've got more important things to do than to have some high school drama. So, with that said, go ahead, Rose.
Well, the owner of the channel said he was up for it. I think the guy that was starting the drama with TFM wasn't even on the actual live stream.
Yeah. I think that, I wasn't sure who he was. I just know that he was associated with it, and it created a level of drama that was completely avoidable and unnecessary. So with that said, let me go ahead and do the closing show alerts, and we'll get out of here. So if you want to support the channel, you can definitely support me via Patreon. Feel free to follow me on misandrytoday.com or at gab.ai or at minds.com. And of course, please support me by subscribing to my channel via bitchute.com and youtube.com. And of course, if I am targeted by YouTube, all my content is backed up on bitchute.com. And of course, you can support me via Twitch by subscribing via Amazon.Prime. Earlier, I misspoke and said Twitch Prime, but you can support me via Amazon Prime and subscribe to my Twitch channel. It costs you nothing, and it definitely supports this channel. So I appreciate everybody being here. Also, as a reminder, follow BitChute on Twitter, follow BitChute on Minds, follow BitChute on Gab, and definitely check out BitChute's website. And if you support the free speech platform and what they are doing, feel free to subscribe to BitChute on either their bronze, gold, or silver plans so that they have that support there. And then, of course, we're going to have the IndieGoGo set up in the description for his alternate comments technology platform that they are in the process of developing. And Ray, do you have any closing statements or any comments you want to make before we shut the stream down?
Just it's been a real pleasure, and thanks to everyone who's listening.
Awesome. Thank you guys again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.